Good evening, everybody. Welcome, Pitmasters. 18 so far. Um, I think you guys may know all of us, but just in case, I'm Meathead. With me is Max Good. Say hello, Max.
Hello.
He is our undaunted grill and smoker tester full time. Keeper of the Flame is his title. And also
And
with
a
us,
snappy dresser.
Clint. Clint, you're muted, I think. Are you
Oh,
speaking? Unmuting. Your mouth was working beautifully, but nothing was
can you
coming
hear
out.
me?
Well,
You can hear me or
the
no?
soft-spoken, silent Clint Cantwell, our vice president of whatever,
Yep.
and yeah, Clint, you're
Little,
still. I have no audio for you,
huh.
so
I can hear him.
fancy microphone I sent you is not collaborating with us.
Max says he can
Um,
hear me.
well,
I,
uh, oh, I hear messages from people that say Clint is coming through. All right,
Yeah,
maybe I have
Max
a speaker
Max
issue
can hear me.
on my end. Max, can you say something?
hello, hello, hello.
Hold on. Can you say something, Max?
Hello, do you hear me? I'm
Well, I'm
talking.
not. All right, so we have
So
a speaker issue
Meathead
on
needs
my
to go
end.
for
You guys
medical
are hearing
attention.
Max and Clint.
Yep.
Okay,
I
that's
think
bizarro.
his
Stand
hearing
by.
is gone, folks. Got to put him out to pasture.
All right.
Eating
Can
too
you
much
guys hear
beef.
me?
I can
Somebody
hear
Yeah.
tell
you.
us if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Why is my audio? Oh, what's that? All right. My audio is good.
Can you hear us now?
Sorry for the delay here, folks. This has worked every time. And tonight it's go towards the well, I don't. It'd be nice if I could hear this
Yeah.
session. Um,
Well, how's everyone else doing today? How are you, Max?
Not bad, not bad.
How is the weather up
somebody say
there?
something.
How's the
Kind of,
weather up in
kind of
Chicago?
a little on the cool side,
No,
but
okay. Well, I'm going to introduce you guys, and it sounds like you're on your own until I can figure out how to hear you. But I did actually introduce you guys. A couple of items of housekeeping I wanted to mention, and then I'll turn it over to Max. Uh, First of all, I hope you have had a chance to go to the free part of the website, the main part of the website, where all of Max's reviews live. We have worked exceedingly hard for about a year to rebuild the entire website. We were in a program called Drupal, and we have moved to WordPress. All 2,000 plus pages of the website. We have touched every page, reorganized things, but much of the improvements are on the back end for management. But there are some real improvements that you can see on the front end, and that is new and improved navigation. It's a lot easier to find things. The navigation bar across the top of the screen has drop down menus with most of the popular places that you want to go. And a really major improvement is the search functions and features. In the top right, you'll see a little magnifying glass. If you click on that, there's it'll take you to a page that allows you to really drill down in your search for grills and smokers or thermometers or books and accessories or articles. And one of the coolest features is you can search both the free website and the Pitmaster Club. So you can search both locations. So if you're looking for the pork butt, you can search on that. on both sides of the website. So it's really cool. Finding things works a lot better if you type in keywords. The articles that have those keywords tend to float up to the top better. So I think you'll find that it's a lot easier to use now. We have some new features coming up. Well, among the features that's already there is if you print a recipe, you can scale it up and down. So if you want to double the recipe, there's a little slider. You can double the recipe. Very soon, we're going to have conversion to metric. We have a lot of people from Europe and elsewhere who use the metric system. And we should have that hopefully within a couple of weeks, if not sooner. And a lot of other stuff. So please go check it out. And if you find something that's odd or not behaving, let us know. You can reach me through the contact us button or just email meathead@amazingribs.com.
Yeah, or just throw a comment
Clint
on
at
the page.
amazingribs.com or Max at amazingribs.com.
We check your comments
Also,
every day.
effective to tomorrow, we have finally signed the contract with the Peabody Hotel for the meetup in Memphis, which is now March 18 through 20. We had announced the new dates a couple of weeks ago, but we didn't have registration set up. We were still negotiating the contract. We finally got that done. So the meetup in Memphis is now locked down for March 18 through 20 in Memphis. It's the same exact program as we had scheduled for August. And the way things are looking right now, we shouldn't have too much in the way of COVID concerns. And so we're really looking forward to that. This is the third date that we have had for this event. A great deal of frustration. Very glad to have it up and running. Okay, so with those thoughts in mind, a couple of little housekeeping items. If you're using Zoom, in the top right corner, you'll see a little box that says View. And if you view Gallery View, you should be able to see all three of us at once. Otherwise, whomever is doing the speaking will be on the screen. And if you have any questions, post them. There's at the bottom of the screen, there's chat and there's also Q&A. And chat, please use that for talking amongst yourselves. And if you have a question for one of us, put it in the Q&A. Okay? I see we already have some items in chat. I'll just double check and see. Okay, hearing me. Clint is coming through. Here, Clint as well. Okay. Yeah, that's somebody's asking if my. All right, I'll check the headphone connection. All right, well, with that, I will turn it over to Max. And Max, the topic for the night is it's spring, and your old rust bucket in the backyard is rotting out, and it's time to buy a new grill or a smoker. Why don't we start with grills, and you can talk a little bit about what to think about when you're shopping for a grill, what kind of fuel, how much you're going to spend, do we need stainless steel? And you guys out there, feel free to use Q&A and ask questions, and we'll try to deal with them as we can. So take it away, Max.
Okay,
Yeah, Max, actually, before you jump in, I thought it would be interesting just to talk a little bit about your role with AmazingRibs.com and what actually goes into the review process before we get down to actual specifics. When did you join up with Amazing Ribs?
Oh my goodness, it's been about almost 10 years ago. And things have changed quite a bit. It was kind of just Meathead and I at first, and our web design guy, Jim, came in pretty quickly. But in the old days, we used to just have a page for gas grills. And there'd just be this running, like Weber Genesis, whatever. We get a paragraph, and there'd be a picture of it. And then the same for charcoal grills and smokers, things of that nature. It
Oh,
was
wow.
nothing like what it is today.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Uh,
go to the new WordPress site today, it's so much different than that. And, you know,
yeah, that's a
your testing process has evolved exponentially. What, you know,
yeah.
you've probably done a few hundred reviews to date, but kind of talk about your process. What goes into a review when it shows up on your front door?
Okay, well, many of the manufacturers ask me, do you want us to send it to you already built? And I say no, because that's part of the test that we do is what's the packaging like? You know, did you to open it up? Is it confusing? Did you open it up and the parts are all smashing together and, you know, all scraped up? Does it make sense? Is it easy to assemble? As I'm putting a product together, it gives me a sense of how it's designed and the construction quality as well.
Mm.
And then, as always, price is a big factor. You know, if we get something that's very economically priced, I can't compare it to something that's much more expensive that has heavier construction, maybe many other features that the value priced item doesn't have.
Sure.
Once that happens, I take photographs and video. As you know, we always do a YouTube video. I try to do that before it's even fired up, when it's nice and shiny and new. And then the fun begins. I usually start with temperature tests. If it's a gas grill, I'll do a bread test where we lay bread across the entire cooked surface to see if it toasts evenly.
Yeah, and that'll show you if there's hot spots on the grill, if one section is heating up
and
more
this,
than another.
That's really for gas grills that are, in live fire, there's a lot of variables in it.
Sure.
So we don't do that for a charcoal grill, let's say. Then from there, it's just, what does the thing do? You know, I'm not going to try to sear a 1.5 inch steak on a smoker, unless they claim it will do that, which some pellet smokers claim, but very few can. But conversely, if it's a gas grill, I'm not going to try to smoke a brisket on it. I know it can be done in a pinch, but I just don't feel that it's necessary. It's
You
sort
got
of
to play to the strengths of what the thing was designed to
yeah,
do.
exactly. And see how well it operates. If it's a charcoal grill, does it have good air control? Good air control translates into good temperature control, and that's what you want, is control. Gas grills, what kind of a range does it have? That's an issue with gas grills, is most of them have a very limited temperature range. They don't go down really low, which means you have to set up 2 zones.
Yeah.
And they don't go up very high, which means you might not have much to do other than throw something like a cast iron pan on it, or griddle, or grill grate, something that will store up the heat and sear with conductive heat. Other gas grills have sear burners. Some gas grills have very powerful burners that can get very hot on their own. Smokers, those designs are all over the place. So I guess, I just try to do an honest test of what the product is supposed to do, what it's made to do, what a consumer could expect, and then
yeah, I mean, you're taking all of the guesswork out of the process. If I go to Lowe's or Home Depot, something may look beautiful and shiny on their showroom floor, but until I get it home and really kick the tires on it and cook on it for a while, I'm not going to know if it's all that it's cracked up to be, if it's all that they advertise it to be. And, I could, depending on what it is, I could be out a couple $1,000s on something, but you're lessening that that learning curve and basically providing a tool where people can go in the search function now, you can search by price range. Everything is given a medal. So it's really easy to kind of dial down to exactly what you're looking for.
Yes, yes. And if you're at the big box stores on the showroom, the manufacturers, especially those that are trying to entice you with price, they will add extras, like lights and doodads. They'll even throw in a bottle opener bolted to the side.
Yeah.
They'll do things that are a little tricky, like maybe the overall construction is very lightweight and tin canish, but they know the first thing you're going to do is lift the lid. So they might beef up the thickness of the metal on just the lid only. So
Oh,
your
I gotcha.
perception is that, oh, this feels pretty solid,
Yeah.
Now, reputable brands like Weber, and they try to make stuff that deserves their name, that they've earned. But there's some really low cost brands out there like Next Grill that they're just really kind of trying to lure you in.
Yeah.
So be
Yeah,
careful.
you can hopefully see on your screen all of the different variables that you can check when you're conducting your search of all of the hundreds of reviews on the site, and really find the one that is custom tailored to you. One thing that we talked about, Max, and I don't know how many of you have been out to these big box stores, but smokers and grills aren't the easiest thing to come by this year, are they, Max?
Yes, this is very true. Supply chain disruptions began when the pandemic began at the beginning of last year, have persisted. I actually discussed this with the XM Bank that helps supply financing for U.S. companies to export.
Oh,
And also with a freight forwarder I have used for my Black Swan barbecue sauce, because I do export it.
yeah.
BDG International, and said, tell me your view. I talked to the grill and smoker manufacturers, and I hear their sad stories. And
Yeah.
as everybody who's listening to this very likely has experienced, I can't get parts. I can't get the grill I want. This smoker came out last fall, and I called the manufacturer, and they said, oh, yeah, we're going to have them in a month, and they still don't have them. So yeah, the supply chain disruption, from what I've been able to gather, is due to several things. I don't know if we want to get into them. I mean, I guess we can all just, with our own common sense, understand that this pandemic has been globally disruptive in every way. And why not supply chain, right?
Yeah, and I guess the long story short, if you're at a Home Depot or a Lowe's, or even online at one of our friends like Barbecue Guys or Amazon, and you see what you like, don't wait until tomorrow, because it may not be there on the
That's
floor
absolutely
before
true.
this.
And then they'll say, we'll get them as soon as we can. But
Yeah,
the organizations I just mentioned that actually do logistics and are involved more deeply with all types of logistics worldwide I said, well, give us a prediction. When will we start to see this normalize?
yeah.
And they're saying maybe by the end of this year, but maybe not till the beginning of 22. So Clint, you give good advice to everyone hearing us. You better grab it while it's good.
Yeah, and we do have buy it here links on every page. So if it's available, you should be able to click that. But are you able to hear us now, Meathead?
Yes, I can finally hear you. And I wanted to interject. Here's your, we have, some of them have multiple links. If it's available on Amazon, you can click here and it should take it right to Amazon, and you can either buy it there or just make a note of the price and move along. One thing that I did catch in the earlier as part of the discussion, and I want to do my little speech that I've done before, and hopefully I won't bore too many of you with it. But one thing that you really need to understand, if you don't already, is that when you are cooking on a grill or a smoker, there are three different types of energy that cook your food. And it's a good idea to think of it as energy, not heat. And the example I often use is turn on your oven, set it for 225. And when it hits 225, open the door and put your arm in. And you can do this. It won't burn the hair off the back of your arm. It won't hurt you. You can hold it in there for a few seconds or minutes. And that's 225 air temperature. Now, touch the side of that oven. And when your flesh melts off, you'll understand that a 225 piece of metal has more energy stored in it and conducts more energy than 225-degree air. Now, if you want to grill a steak and you want to get a really good sear on it, you wouldn't put it in an oven because there's not enough energy in the air to sear it, to brown it. And you want searing because searing is flavor. It's not sealing in juices. The searing is called the Maillard reaction. It's a chemical reaction, and it changes the exterior of the meat to brown. And you want as much of that brown as you can get. So you have air, or convection air is one type of energy, and then conduction, which is when the food touches hot metal. And then the third type of energy is infrared energy. And that's when the food is directly above glowing coals or flame. The flame and the glowing coals conducts infrared energy. And it's similar in concept. It's not the same, but it's similar to ultraviolet energy. You know, on a beautiful, bright, sunny day, the back of your neck will burn in the sun. If the sun goes behind clouds, it's still very warm out there, but you don't have that ultraviolet. Well, the same thing with your grill. If you set up a grill in two zones, one side has glowing coals, the other side doesn't, you can get a sear directly over the glowing coals, but not on the other side. And that's two-zone cooking. So you want to look for, if you cook a lot of steaks or chops or burgers, you want to be looking for a grill that produces a lot of infrared energy. And Max talked very briefly at the beginning about pellet grills. They call them pellet grills, but they're really, if you look under the hood, they're very much like the design of your indoor oven. The heat is generated beneath a metal plate, and so it's warming the air. You rarely find a pellet smoker that allows you to get the meat directly over flame. And so it's not a good grill for things like chops or steaks or burgers. Plenty of warm air. And when people say, well, my pellet grill goes up to 600 degrees. Well, that's 600 degrees air temp.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you can't sear a steak with 600 degrees air temp. You need 600 degrees, or much less actually, of hot metal conduction or infrared. So those are important concepts. And when you're looking at gas grills, they rarely have enough infrared to sear. Pellet grills rarely have enough infrared to sear. Charcoal does. Logs do, if you can get the food directly above the embers of the logs. Now, Max, if you could talk some more about the different ways you can sear on a gas grill, because some of them have special sear burners and special sear facilities.
Yes, the sear burners are a great feature on gas grills. I mentioned there are some that do have super powered burners, and it's interesting, the price ranges on them. We actually reviewed, believe it or not, the Char Griller has made one for many years, but I just got my hands on it a year or two ago. It was their Grillin' Pro. It's only $200, but man, that thing gets hot.
Mm.
And then there's others, like some of these really expensive grills have 22,000 BTU burners, and we could talk about BTUs and heat flux later, but that's sucking up a lot of gas, and you can bet those things are hot. Most gas grills can only get up, they just don't sear, as Meathead said. That's why it's very popular for them to use cast iron grates, because then they can at least brand your meats with brown stripes from the conductive heat. Otherwise, you'd be throwing a steak on there and it would come out just pale and gray. So at least you feel like, well, at least they got sear marks on it. But if you can get a good gas grill with a sear burner, now you're talking. And we've reviewed quite a few of them. The ceramic sear burners, the infrared sear burners, are particularly desirable. They can really pump out a lot of energy, exceed 1,000 degrees, and they actually don't consume a lot of fuel either, oddly enough. Weber sear zones are really just an additional tube burner between two main burners, but it works great. So if you're looking at gas grills, keep that in mind. There's another thing too, Meathead, that I always bring up, particularly with gas grills, since they also don't have a good low temperature range, but with all grills, and that is the size. We've already mentioned two-zone cooking, but let's just talk about gas grills in particular. Let's say you have a gas grill, and with all your burners down low, the lowest it'll go is 400 degrees. Well, you don't want to put a turkey on like that. It's going to get overcooked. The bottom's going to burn, So you set up two zones. And that's also what was mentioned, and many, I'm sure, our Pitmaster Club members already know, is that you shut off some burners, and that creates an indirect zone where you get that convection heat that's coming from the burners that are on. And this is one reason why we say you have to have digital thermometers, because the thermometers built into the hoods are never accurate. And when you go two zone, forget it. I mean, they're giving you an average temperature at the top of the hood, not what your indirect zone is. So they're going to be way up. So you need to clip a good digital thermometer. And of course, we have reviews on those as well that are also searchable. You need to know what temperature you're cooking at. If you don't, you're operating in the dark, and you're winging it. You're going on a wing and a prayer, whether it's chicken wings or not. You don't know what's going to come out of that thing.
One of the questions from Tony is, what do you think of NextGrill? They've popped up everywhere. Max can answer that, but I think I'm sharing my screen again. So I'm going to go to the search and reset, and that clears out all of the choices. It should clear out all the choices. There we go. And then I'm going to choose the manufacturer, and I'm going to slide down. Look at all the different manufacturers.
We don't have a lot on NextGrill.
Well,
and I can tell you why.
Well, let's get it up anyhow, and then you can. All right, there is NextGrill Industries. Looks like we have only one of them, and you see the options have changed just to meet the features and the price range of the units that we've tested. And it looks like we have one unit in here, and it's been discontinued. So we have not got a lot on NextGrill. Here it is. And Max, what do you think of the NextGrills?
Well, they're a cost-driven brand. They've actually been around a long time, and they make a lot of different models. I would say if you can get a good deal on one that looks like it'll suit your needs, maybe, but don't expect high performance, and don't expect it to last forever, and don't expect great customer service either. I actually, at one of the shows, I met the president of NextGrill, and I introduced myself and said, yeah, I know they're popular. They're in a lot of the big box stores. And I said, we would like to get more of your products, and because of the popularity.
Yeah.
And they just flat out refuse to send us anything. Now they are cheap enough we could buy them, but I
What's
must
what
say
is
that
cheap?
I don't have a high expectation from them. I mean, I imagine some of their products aren't too bad, but you got to look at what they stand for. They stand for cost, keep the cost down, and they will be the type that will put on little bells and whistles to try to get you to buy it, take it home, you know. But if you end up being unhappy with it, you wouldn't be alone. And you can see, you know, on Amazon, people that buy them, or at Home Depot.
Tell us about stainless steel. Do I got to buy a shiny stainless steel grill?
Well, stainless steel, I actually agree with Dr. Blonder's comment about the desirability of stainless steel. I think the internal parts, if you can get stainless steel grates in particular, or in gas grills, heat tents, flavorizer bars, whatever you want to call them, that's more important than the exterior. And in addition, companies like Next Grill, and they're not the only ones, they're the kings of tin can stainless steel, and it's low quality stuff. It's barely there sometimes, you know. Some people like the way it looks at first, but that shows up every smudge and fingerprint and gunk and stuff dripping down, you know, much more than, say, a dark enamel coated steel would. So that shiny look, unless you work on it, is going to go away. And if you buy something cheap, it's going to rust out and not look great, even if you try to keep shining it up.
I thought stainless steel was stainless. It wouldn't rust out.
Well, the cheaper versions actually will not withstand the rigors of outdoor cooking as well as the higher quality stainless steel. And what happens then is you get hairline fractures and they start spreading.
Oh.
And that can lead to corrosion that will begin to affect it overall. So yeah, stainless steel, if you buy really high quality stuff, you're going to pay for it. And you know, if that's what you want and you love the look, you know, there a lot of the outdoor kitchen stuff. Now this is expensive usually, but it's pretty much all stainless steel, and it all matches. They have drawers, they have a sink, they got kegerators, they got refrigerators, you name it. It's all really super duper high quality stainless steel, and it ain't cheap. But if that's what you want and you can afford it, it's going to do great.
But it takes a lot of elbow grease to keep it shiny. It's not going to look like it does out of the box.
No way.
Yeah,
what about charcoal grills, Max? We spent a lot of time on gas grills here. Yeah. Tell us about charcoal grills, what to look for when we're shopping for a charcoal grill. What are the features that are necessary? And some of the brands that you've tested that you like.
Okay. Again, size, because even though they're charcoal, you have a much better temperature range, even without going to zone, because you do control the heat by controlling the air. So you want a solid unit. That's kind of hard to tell on the showroom floor. So you want to go with a reputable brand. Weber, of course, the kings of the charcoal kettle. You can't go wrong with that. The Canadians, Napoleon, make some very good kettles as well. There's a lot of different charcoal grills out there now that have
Slow and sear. Slow and
sear is very, very good. Many of our listeners right now know about slow and sear, or at least they know about the slow and sear insert. And now, for those who haven't heard, Slow and Sear now makes a really great charcoal kettle and a Kamado that incorporates their Slow and Sear insert. And then there's some more expensive charcoal grills, but generally like a Hasty Bake 357 and Meathead reviewed recently. Hasty Bake's been around actually longer than Weber. They started in 1948. Weber started in 1952. And they've been very, very popular all along. They haven't gotten as big as Weber and Charbroil for whatever reason, that maybe they like being that way. PK Grills, Portable Kitchen. They've been around as long as Weber, 1952. They make grills. They've always made grills with cast aluminum bodies. So some of those early ones, you still hear stories of them. You know, like I went to my grandma's house. You know, she's so old that I tried to clear up her garden. And I'm cutting away all these vines, and I see a PK grill in there. And I took it out and said, "Can I have this, Grandma?" And she goes, "Ah, sure." You know, so I had to get new grates, and I fired it up, and I'm cooking away on it. But they have new ownership over the past couple of years, and they've really made a big push to elevate the brand. They've come up with some new models that are wonderful. And indeed, they've become the go-to charcoal grill for the steak competitions.
If I'm shopping for a charcoal grill, what should I look for?
You look for solid construction, because that usually means, well, look for reputation. You know, I'm naming some great brands, you know. But also look for solid construction. If it's you don't want a cheap, flimsy charcoal grill, because that's going to very likely mean you have no air control. And if you don't have air control, forget about it. Also, there's some where you can obviously see they really don't have dampers that are that effective. I've seen some where they just have holes drilled in the bottom. What are you going to do with that? You know.
Well, why do we want air control?
Air control equals energy control, temperature control, right? Oxygen feeds the fire. You close off the oxygen. Most charcoal grills have intake dampers under the charcoal or next to it, under where the charcoal burns. And that's what feeds the fire.
Yeah.
Open it up. You'll see those coals get nice and red and hot. You'll feel the heat coming off of them. Close it down, they'll start to calm down. They'll start to, the heat and the glowing red color will start to damper down. And of course, the exhaust is also important. A good charcoal grill will have what you can probably see. You know, you get on the, take a look at it. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be pretty solid on the bottom and on the top too. That's something to really look for.
That's one of the reasons why the Weber kettle still remains a very popular and a very good choice for charcoal grill, because you can control airflow, and you need charcoal and airflow for temperature. And the Weber kettle is pretty easy. You damper it down either from the top or the bottom. I prefer to damper the bottom, which is the oxygen supply, rather than from the top, which will prevent combusted smoke and other things from going out. It works pretty well, and you can change the temperature pretty quickly. Now, on the other hand, a very popular choice among people are these ceramic Kamados.
Mm-hmm.
Max, what about them? What about the temperature control on them?
Well, one beef that we have about Kamados is, generally speaking, they're round. We've been talking a lot about two-zone cooking. The modest-sized Kamados that are round are very difficult to set up for two zones. Now, some Kamado owners, you know, the big green egg guys, they say, I don't care. If I want to smoke, I'll set it up for that. And if I want to sear, I'll just open everything up, and you can get them just hot, really, really, really hot. But you know, you're committed with, once you get them hot, you're committed. Most of them are still ceramic. And once that ceramic gets hot, it's not going to cool down for a long time.
Yeah.
I mentioned the slow and sear Kamado. Slow and sear, for those who don't know, it's a kind of a half moon funnel shaped insert that holds your charcoal. It was originally designed for Weber kettles. Weber has these two little half moon charcoal trays that they use for that purpose, to set up two zones with the heat on each side and the indirect zone in the middle. Slow and sear uses a method we far prefer, where the indirect hot side is on one side. I'm sorry, the direct hot side is on one side, the indirect moderate side is on the other. And with their Kamado, this actually works great, because most Kamados have the charcoal at the bottom. So even if you get, there's another one that can be set up for 2 zones. That's called the Primo ovals. Their oval shape allows you to set up 2 zones better. And they'll have that you can buy an optional firebox divider that accentuates that. And because they're oval shaped, it works pretty good. But this works even better because the charcoal's up off the bottom, off to the side. So it contains the heat not only on one side, but midway up. It's not on the bottom radiating heat into all that heavy ceramic. Weber's Kamado, they finally started calling them Kamados. When they rolled them out in 2016, they called them the Summit charcoal grills, and they're double-walled steel, like their kettles. But it works very well. They call it air insulation. It's kind of a funny term, but it actually works very well. It will hold in heat, but it also allows you to be a bit more nimble if you want to change heat, which will happen, particularly if you are unaccustomed to your Kamado. The temperature can run away from you. Once you're really comfortable with it and know what you're doing with it, you know where your Kamado in your neck of the woods wants to settle in, and you know what you're doing, hopefully. But it's always nice to have that capability of tweaking it a little.
Something that we've hinted at, but not really addressed directly, is for grills. We are strong advocates of a grill that you can set up in 2 zones. If you can see the shared screen, this is the Slow and Sear Kamado, but Weber Kettle can do the same thing. On the left-hand side, you have convection airflow, which can gently warm your food. On the right-hand side, you have infrared energy, which you need for searing. And this is temperature control. This gives you the ability to move from the infrared zone to the convection zone and back and forth, or to warm the meat indirectly here and then sear it, which is called reverse sear, a technique we think is really useful and important. So if you're shopping for a charcoal grill or a gas grill, you want to try to get something that is easy to set up in 2 zones. And if you're going to set up in 2 zones, that means you have 2 cooking zones. Half of the surface area is what you're cooking on. So if you're cooking for a big crowd for 4th of July and you're, say, doing hamburgers and you're using 2 zone, which is a good technique for burgers, especially if you've got a 6 or an 8 ounce pub burger, start it on the indirect side, gently warm it so it's even temperature throughout, and then at the end you move it over the direct infrared heat and get your sear or chicken. How many times have you gone to somebody's 4th of July party and they served you chicken that is black and charcoal on the outside? If you use 2 zones, you can warm it gently, and when it's almost done, move it over the direct infrared side and sear it that way. So
yeah, you know, my favorite grill in my backyard is my Weber Kettle 27-inch for that exact.
Yeah, I've got a Weber 22, and I'm jealous of your.
Yeah, but at 27 inches, you know, if we've got a family of 5, but you set that up for 2 zone cooking, you've got plenty of surface area to do a nice amount of burgers or chicken or whatever.
Yeah, so I think that's vital when you're choosing a grill, is you want lots of real estate. It's like computers. You can't have too much memory in your computer. Well, you can't have too much real estate on the surface of your grill. You want to set up, here you go. I don't know if you guys can see, there's your 2 zone setup. The steaks on the right are gently warming. And then just before they hit the target temp, let's say target temp is 130, that's medium rare. You move them directly over those glowing coals, and you've got a great sear, and they're beautiful, even temp. There it is here. Here's the second shot over the coals, searing. And
one of
there you go.
One of the members mentions that in his PK grill, he separates the zones with a log, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, well, that's
creating
one of the
a little bit of smoke.
One of the great features of the PK is it's rectangular, So it's really easy to set up in a 2-zone system. And I love the fact that you can do that on the PK. And it's hard to do on the round Kamados.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you just don't have, once you get to the bottom of that Kamado, there's really not that much room for separating coals into.
So
And
why don't we
many of
move
the
on?
Kamadas have all these contraptions that will raise or lower the cooking surface. You get it down low, right above the charcoal. Kamado Joe came up with a lot of great ideas that they give you as a package deal. Many of these things were third party, and you had to pay extra for it. But at the end of the day, it's nice being able to have a real hot direct zone and moderate indirect zone without moving things up and down, although it is done and it can work.
Max, why don't we move to smokers? We have several questions related to them. One is, I use a Weber kettle. If the backyard dream is to have a real deal offset smoker like a Lang 36, is there a starter charcoal smoker that I can spend years on, first building up knowledge that can be transferred to an offset? Or are offsets unique enough that it is better to just get one and put the practice in on it?
Yeah, I see some nice ones for $100 outside of my program.
Don't buy those.
They'll find them in my alley after a year. If they are,
I had a really $150 tin can. It was a nightmare to use. And the funny thing was, and this is before I met you, Meathead. The funny thing was, all my family and my neighbors said, "Oh, you're the king of barbecue," because people were dying just for smoke. You know, they wanted to taste smoky food. But I knew in my heart it wasn't that good. You know? And when you get better equipment, suddenly I felt like I was a runner wearing lead shoes, and suddenly I started getting this good equipment, and it was, now I got Nikes. You know, I'm off and running.
Yeah, you know, when I had one of those cheapo offsets from the grocery store, I had no idea that you didn't have to stay up all night fuel into your smoker. You could actually go to bed and enjoy a nice night's rest while things cook, because they're drafty. I mean, it's just sucking oxygen.
We had an interesting discussion with Bill Carew with Carubicue. You guys, I'm sure, remember that, where he said, "Look, it doesn't matter that they're using that the evenness of heat and the airflow and heat flow profiles aren't dictated, in his view, aren't dictated so much because the metal is thick and it's holding in the heat, but because it's thick, it's structurally sound and will seal tightly." He made that distinction. But getting back to the reader's question, I don't want to give anybody bad advice. Certainly do not buy those cheapy $150, $200 tin cans. There are a couple out there that are more moderately priced. Oklahoma Joe is making something that's a step up. They're making a couple models, traditional and reverse flow models, and they're about $350. You know, a lot of people are liking them. And char griller, and again, these guys they have made some really cheapo stuff for ever and ever. In fact, that first smoker I just dissed was a char griller. But they just came out with a new one. It's called the Grand Champ. And it's about $500. And we haven't tested it, but it's getting to, I'm going to put it on my list because people are buying them and going, "Hey, this thing's pretty dang good." They have a couple other models that they're surprising me. You know, just this past year, they really came out with a couple kind of cool things. But then, you know, Yoder and Horizon, which are related in a strange way. You can look at their offsets, and you can see a lot of similarities. They both make some offsets. Well, really, mostly Horizon. Horizon was the original Oklahoma Joe's. and so to make a long story short, one of the brothers, they were a group of brothers that had Oklahoma Joes. One of the brothers, Roger, split off and started Horizon, and he's making the classic 1/4 inch traditional wood burning offsets. He does make a few models that are under $1,000. You can go to their website and see them. Thing to remember though about all of these, you will pay shipping, and they're heavy, so that will add to your cost.
Let me get to James Barman's question a little more directly, if I may. He's talking about having a real deal offset smoker like a Lang 36. The issue here is, and he wants to know if there's something he can start with before he graduates. The issue here is the design of an offset smoker is so vastly different from any other smoker design.
Yeah.
Vastly different from a barrel. It's vastly different from a ceramic Kamado. It's vastly different from a Weber kettle split in 2 zones. So you have a whole new set of problems and solutions. And so the only solution, I think, to get ready for a good offset smoker is to buy a good offset smoker. Now, you spoke about an offset charcoal smoker. One of the beauties of things like the Lang 36 is you can burn logs. And I think that the three of us may agree with me when I say that if you master cooking with logs, you can get the best flavor of any type of smoker. That logs just produce an elegant, complex smoke flavor that charcoal itself has very little to no flavor. You need the wood. You need wood for flavor, charcoal for energy. So when charcoal is fully lit, I mean, when you start charcoal, you see a lot of white billowy smoke, and it has a funny taste. But once it's fully lit, you don't see much smoke. You put wood on top of charcoal to get smoke. So, James, I hope you're still with us. If you haven't watched the happy hour interview like this one that we did several months ago with Bill Carew, he makes a wood smoker called the Carubicue, which Max had, and the first time he cooked on it for me, I absolutely fell to the floor. Since then, when he started working on other products, I sneaked up there and kidnapped it. And I have it now in my garage, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And this kind of dovetails into Raymond's question: Carubicue versus Big Green Egg versus pit barrel cooker. We should spend a moment explaining, Max, what the Carubicue is and how it works and what makes it unique, and then answer the rest of the question.
Yeah, I mean, all three of those are pretty unique. I think you need to make them
right. I mean, it's kind of like Porsche versus Volkswagen versus Chevy.
Which is better?
Yeah, you can get rid of your wife's flower bed and make room for all three.
Yeah, yeah, or red wine, marijuana, and heroin.
Not touching that. I will have the red wine.
You've had a busy day today, Meathead.
Yeah. So, Max, what is a Carubicue and how does it work? And then tell us a little bit about the Big Green Egg. I think we covered that already. And then the pit barrel cooker.
They are very different. Carubicue, if anyone listening to this, if you haven't done it already, do read my review. It's a brilliant design. It's unlike anything else. It's a really brilliant spin on an offset, and it burns wood. But instead of the wood being offset off to the side and the smoke and the heat going into a smoke box area, the wood is in a firebox on top of the smoke box. And it has a thermostatically controlled fan system built in. So what happens is, and it's a cabinet smoker with racks in it, a vertical cabinet smoker. The fire is on top. The wood is burning. You have a red hot bed of hot red coal at the bottom of this firebox. When you turn it on, and it has kind of a rough calibrated thermostat, and it has a very limited temperature range. It really is a smoker. 250 to 350 is its range. When you turn it on, the fan kicks in and sucks air from above the burning wood into the smoke box, and where it caresses your meats with perfect smoke, and as well as moisture from the air and wood. You don't really need to put water pans in this thing, generally.
The key here is normally when you light logs on fire, the smoke goes up, and an offset smoker, the smoke goes up and to the left or right into the food chamber. So with that smoke comes, smoke is made up of water vapor, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitric oxide, gases, and tiny little particles. And there's even creosote, and there's other impurities in there. And they can make the meat taste very good, or if you haven't got control of your fire, they can make the meat taste funky. With this downdraft system, the smoke doesn't go up. It's pulled down and it goes through the embers. It actually is pulled through the embers, and the embers burn the impurities off. And so you get very clean, elegant tasting smoke.
It's incredible. This is the quality of smoke that pit masters are able to achieve, and even many of them can't do it night after night after night. But this machine does it for you. You do have to babysit. You have to keep replenishing wood every half hour. And there's been an ongoing question that always comes up is, why can't you make a bigger firebox? Why can't you make a wood hopper? And it just won't work. Bill said the flame will go up through the wood. It just catches on so much quicker than charcoal. Like there are charcoal gravity feed smokers. People point to them and go, why not Karubikyu? He says that he's tried and tried and tried. He hasn't given up, but so far he hasn't come up with a design.
Now, I don't know if you mentioned it, but the Karubikyu is expensive.
It's about $1,600.
Yeah, and it's stainless steel. It's got pretty good capacity, though. It is just a wonderful device, but if you buy it, be prepared to sit next to it until the food is done. Every 30 minutes or so, you've just got to add more logs, but you will absolutely be floored by the quality.
It's noticeable. It's remarkable. When you have friends or family over there, go, how did you do this? It's not a subtle thing.
How about the big green egg? I think most everybody knows about it, but give us a quick thumbnail description of what the big green egg is and how it operates, its strengths and weaknesses.
Well, as we already said, it's a charcoal oven, basically. It's a great charcoal smoker. It will hold heat when you know how to use it properly. Once you nail the temperature, that thing's going to hum away overnight into the next day.
In the middle of the winter in Alaska, that's what you want.
Right. But the other thing that is good about it, even though you can't set up two zones, if you want to grill on it, you can get that dang thing hot. I took the cast iron cap, which is a damper that goes on top of the big green egg I tested, opened up the vents on the bottom. I had a column of flame about 1.5 feet long shooting out the top. It was like a blast furnace. So, but there again, it's all or nothing, so that's nice though, because on the Karubikyu, you can't grill anything, but it's a fantastic smoker, and it'll give you way better smoked meats than just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about the pit barrel, which is great. Everybody loves the pit barrel. It's so easy to use, relatively inexpensive. I think they're about $350 for the full size one. Charcoal smoker once again. Now you can do a little grilling on it. They're known for cooking by hanging meats from the top There's two pieces of rebar that go in at the top of the barrel, and they give you these great stainless steel hooks. You can hang chickens. You can hang briskets if you truss them up nice. But of course, for ribs, oh man, that's a rib smoking machine. And there is also a grate that goes down about halfway above, halfway up from the bottom of the barrel. And you can do some grilling on it. You really got to get that fire stoked. And you can also, like with a pellet smoker, if you want more intense contact heat, conductive heat, you can throw down some. Grill Grates makes a round version specifically for pit barrel for that reason.
Hey, Raymond, I'm finding you're the one who just asked about Rubik's Big Green Egg and pit barrel, and I just happened to look in the chat. Remember, I asked to ask questions in Q&A, but I just happened to look in the chat, and you've got some questions there that I'll answer for you. You said kettles are round too. Why is it different than a Kamado? And then you asked again something similar. Okay, here's the deal. On a Weber kettle, you can push all the charcoal off to one side or use the slow and sear insert. And now you have a really distinctive two-zone system. And you have a convection airflow on one side, and you have really hot infrared on the other side. A Kamado is kind of funnel shaped. And there's a small round area at the bottom where the charcoal sits. And you really can't divide it in half very easily because it's not kind of like a funnel. And so you can't get that charcoal all off to one side very easily. There is inserts that you can put in there that will block the infrared so that you can have a better convection section. But to do that effectively, you got to lift out the grates, you got to insert the gadget, you got to put the grates back in, and it's really hot in there while you're working. So it's very awkward to get that done. The Weber kettle is right all up front there. It's very easy to set it up at the beginning. It's easy to add charcoal as you cook. It's just, if you're going to do two-zone, and we think two-zone is important, it's really quite a lot easier than any of the round Kamados.
Yeah, and Big Green Egg and others, once that ceramic reaches a temperature, that ceramic's going to hold it, which isn't bad if you want to increase the temperature and make it hotter, but it's not going to happen if you want to tone it back.
We were talking about the temperature retention ability of these. We have James Carlin is saying his Primo XL doesn't lose 1 degree of temperature even when it rains, but it takes a long time to cool down, especially if you overshoot the temp. And that's one of the problems with these Kamados is if you want to cook something at a low temp and you overshoot, you're just going to cook it whatever it goes to, because you're going to have to wait hours for it to cool off. Not hours, but a while. Okay, any more questions out there? There is one here, Max, that takes us back to gas grills. Dad of 3 in Illinois asks, does anyone make a grill with brass burners anymore?
Well, I hope you got a lot of money. Kalamazoo makes them.
Oh
They're talking about $20,000, for a gas. They made these. What do they call them? Dragon burners, cast brass burners. Ooh, those are beautiful grills. I
can't.
You're
think
kind
of
of ringing some bells. Like, they're very rare. I want to say that I do recall somebody else, but it was not a cheap grill either, if I'm even recalling.
Some of the gas smokers I've seen have a round brass burner in them.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're not very expensive. So I don't know how that works out, but some of the gas smokers. And by the way, if you're just getting started, or you're looking for something that is easy to set up and not set it and forget it, as they say, of course the easiest are pellets. But these gas smokers, we don't talk much about them out there. I like them. They make pretty good flavor. You put in wood, it smokes. If you can dial in the temperature, you can pretty much walk away. and several of them I've seen do have the brass burners. Going back into the Pitmaster Club in the pit, when Husky posted the notice of tonight's session, several people asked questions. Zero Credit asked one. So many companies have really dropped the ball on customer service during the last year, while others have done great. Yeah, a lot of them, I mean, people have been sick or stuck at home, and personnel have been short. Good customer service can be useful for acquiring new parts, warranty issues, and improving your learning curve on a smoker. We get a sense of your interactions with your reviews sometimes. Which smoker and grill manufacturers are among your favorites to deal with in your professional capacity, and maybe haven't lost a step during COVID?
I think everybody got hammered at the beginning of it. But the first one that I have to applaud, and probably no surprise, is Weber. They've always been known for their customer service. They recovered very quickly. And I mean, if you call them now, it's like, what COVID, what pandemic, they're back in operation. A lot of the smaller, privately owned companies like Slow and Sear, Green Mountain Grills, they've been able to keep it up, but many of them have just been overly stressed. A lot of their people are working remotely from home. I'm sure we've all had an experience where you dial customer service and somebody gets on the line, you hear a baby crying in the background and things, and your heart goes out to them. But
wait a minute. I called Comcast, my internet provider, for customer service, and I got the Philippines, and there were chickens and roosters crowing in the background.
Well, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, on one hand, I think we're all understanding, but as I spoke with a retailer recently, and he was lamenting that he couldn't get the products that he was promised, and he said last fall, my customers were like, "Oh, okay, we understand." Now they're going, I want my money back. I'm never buying anything from you again. He's like, when's this going to end? But I don't know what to say. I mean, in one sense, there's no excuse for it. Some of these companies didn't have great customer service to begin with, and now it's really bad. This pandemic has made everything more difficult, and that is the case with customer service. I've had some brands where you guys and just the people that go to our free site will say, hey, you gave a good review to this grill, but I bought it and nobody will pick up the phone. I got a part that's bad, or I got something. No, I'm not getting any help. And I go, okay, Max to the rescue. I contact them. They respond to me, most of them, or Meathead or Clint. It'd be, and they're like, oh, we're sorry, we'll look into this, and
that's a really interesting point, and I should mention that we get people complain about their device that's not functioning and they can't get customer service. Max will pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, this guy posted a complaint and it's out there visible to everybody to see. Do you really want everybody to think that your customer service sucks? Now, go help that guy. And it works.
Well, what I've always loved is the fact that Noah from Pit Barrel Cooker puts his actual cell phone number on the outside.
I think he stopped doing that. But I still have one with his number on it.
But I mean, there are people like that are really dedicated.
Right. And those are the type of companies I'm talking about, where the owners are still hands-on, but when they get to a certain size, it does become more difficult. One of the reasons is when you get to a certain size, because you have a lot of customers, a lot of people who bought your equipment. That means you got a lot of people calling customer service, and it's really impressive that the biggest of the people that are kings of the pile, Weber, were able to step up quickly and effectively.
And the other thing about Weber is is they keep parts inventory. I had a 15-year-old Weber Genesis that needed some new burners, and I called them up, and they shipped them to me within a day. They had them in stock. 15 years old.
Wow.
They're pretty generous too with their parts. You know, even if it's out of warranty, it doesn't hurt to just say, "Oh, I love my Weber."
Even if your name's not Meathead.
Well, I've heard of people, some of our readers say, "Boy, I love Weber." You know, I have this thing, and I told them it's 15 years old, and they said, "I don't worry about it. You have to." Maybe you just got someone who's in an excellent mood that day on the other line, but I don't think it's their policy to just disregard their warranties. But I do hear that they're pretty generous and they want to take care of their customers.
Max, in the Pitmaster Club, we have a reader who's asking if there's a good offset smoker for under $1,000, or is that wishful thinking? And that kind of ties into the question earlier. So for the fun of it, I went to the search and did a search, and there is one that you liked and recommended for under $1,000. Name that smoker, Max Good.
I think we already discussed. Would it be the Oklahoma Joe?
That's right. That's right. The Longhorn smoker from Oklahoma.
But there are, and people like this. I haven't cooked on them, but I've seen them. They are a step up from the tin cans, but that char griller is looking pretty good too. And I'm very curious about that one, but that's $500. But they make the cheap ones still. That one is called the Grand Champ. So that's the one I'm talking about.
And Raymond has another question. If you could buy, this is a good one. I like this. If you could buy two devices and wanted to be able to both smoke and grill, what combo would you buy? And I'm going to qualify that and say, answer the question twice. Once with price is no object, and once with modest budget.
Oh my gosh. This is where it becomes very difficult to answer when people say price is no object. Two devices that I'm assuming one for a dedicated grill and one for a dedicated smoker.
Yeah, I think he wants to buy a grill and buy a smoker. Now, we both know that there are some things that do both fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about those. Like I have the 357.
Your Hasty Bake,
357, which does both fairly well. But price is no object. Pick him a smoker. Price is no object. Pick him a grill.
Well, there again, though, do you want an offset smoker? Do you want a babysitter?
Stop hemming and hawing, Max.
Well, I don't know. Okay. Get yourself a Jambo Pitts trailer model, 24-inch diameter offset, and then get. We were just talking about Kalamazoo. Wow, they make great gas grills. Get one of those. That's $25,000. But price is no object, so you want.
Would you rather have a Jambo than a Karubicue?
Me? I don't know what I do with a Jambo. Those things are big. I mean,
your deck would collapse.
Right. I sit in my driveway, and I'd use it, of course, but
your wife would have to park outdoors.
That's true. And then for modest prices,
let's keep it under 1,000. How's that? A smoker for under 1,000, and a grill for under 1,000.
Well, hell, get a Weber kettle. Get a Weber kettle on cart model.
Or the Slow and Sear.
Yeah, or Slow and Sear. That would be a good.
They can do both. They can smoke and grill.
And then for a separate smoker, get a get a nice pellet smoker, get a Green Mountain or
Weber Smoky Mountain, you can't go wrong with.
Yeah, 350, $400. They're a little, they require a little skill, but them and the pit barrel, both of them smoke really well without a lot of fuss and muss. I agree. I think I might go Clint's route. I might buy that 27-inch Weber kettle just to get the extra real estate, and you can set it up in 2 zones. The only problem with the Weber kettle as a smoker is you're really limited in real estate. And for that reason, I kind of like the slow and sear a little better because you can really set it up in 2 zones, but it's kind of narrow.
27 inches gives you a lot of room to play with.
slow and sear is 22. So you're neck and neck with the Weber with a slow and sear.
Now I mentioned the Hasty Bake. They make a variety of models.
They make stuff that's more around $1,000. They do make a variety. You got the top of the line.
I do, but the outstanding feature of the Hasty Bake is that the charcoal bed has a crank, and you can raise and lower the charcoal, which is a temperature control system. And also, as you raise it up, you're bringing infrared right close to the surface. So you can lower the charcoal and set up 2 zones, push all the coal off to one side. A lot of real estate in that machine too.
Yeah, and when we were talking about the Kamados, and I mentioned how many of them have gizmos that can raise and lower the cook surface. And I was thinking of the Hasty Bake. Oh, somebody might say, well, how come you like Hasty Bake? And you're kind of commenting on that kind of system that's common in Kamados, where they raise and lower the cooking surface. It's this. Hasty Bake has a crank. You can raise it up. You can lower it down. You don't have to go in there and screw around with different parts, moving around.
It's fun. A lot of these brands are actually going to be at the meetup in Memphis. We've got Hasty Bake, Green Mountain, PK, Oklahoma Joe's. Quite a few fun cookers to actually kick the tires on.
And where are they going to be?
They're going to be with me here in Memphis. Not in August, but in March.
We have assembled a fairly nice selection of products that will be on display. Clint, I say we. Clint has been handling that and doing a great job. So if you can, come on down to the meetup in Memphis in March, and you can kick the tires on some of these. Max, what future innovations do you hope or expect the manufacturers to develop for their cookers? Is there a killer feature that no one has figured out yet? That's a great question.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up the cooker that Husky played with last year. It had flaws, but it definitely, on the innovation side, it was something that we haven't seen out there.
It was striking, and that we were talking about the Masterbuilt gravity feed charcoal smoker, which is also a grow. A gravity feed it's a design that's been around a long time. You have a hopper like a pellet hopper, but it's a charcoal hopper, and these predate pellet smokers. And as the name indicates, gravity just lets that charcoal keep coming down as it burns up at the bottom in a firebox, and then the heat and smoke through the dampers will bring that heat and smoke into the cook box. But Masterbuilt gave it thermostatic control. It's kind of like a pellet smoker that burns charcoal, but a big difference is, in addition to the fuel source, is it can get really hot. It's a searing machine, and they had some technical problems with it. They are having customer service issues and supply issues. I've been in contact with them trying to get some upgraded stuff for them to see if it does fix some of the problems we identified. So far, nothing. Meanwhile, did I ever mention Char Griller, the guys that make cheap stuff? They've come up with their version of it, and they have addressed some of the issues that were complaints with the Masterbuilt. Now, I must say, people who bought that Masterbuilt will say, yeah, we agree with you guys at Amazing Ribs. Some of these things, I can't believe they let that go. It's really irritating, but I still love this thing because it's so versatile and the results are so great. The char griller, comparative size, I believe, is actually a little bit less. I'm still flabbergasted. Char grillers coming up with some of these things that are making me go, hey, that's not a char griller, is it? Are they really doing this cool stuff?
It hasn't been said aloud, but you can probably infer that char griller is known for making inexpensive products.
Yes.
I want to put it on my wish list, and Max and I have talked about this for years. Why can't we get a gas grill with a thermostat on it? Why can't I go out to my gas grill and set it for 350 or 225, have it go up to that temperature, gas goes on, gas goes off, stays at that temperature, and just like my indoor oven.
Brother.
Several years ago, my indoor oven, the thermostat crapped out, and I was able to find it, remove it, order a replacement for $50, put it in, and fix it. Now, if I can fix my indoor oven by myself without a mechanic for 50, and I'm not a mechanic, but for $50, why can't we come up with a gas grill thermostat controller? And I've talked to people about this. I've talked to Weber about this. I've talked to others about it. And, you know, you get this goofy answer like, well, that takes all the fun out of grilling. What? Since when is making really good food not fun?
That's the most fun when you serve it and people go, oh my God, you're a genius.
And look at the popularity of pellet smokers.
100%.
A big part of the popularity of pellet smokers is set it and forget it. And boy, I'll tell you, they hold temperature really close to solid. And, you know, that makes it really easy. Set it, you know, if you want to do a long cook like brisket, just fill the hopper, make sure you got plenty of pellets, pick your temperature and go to bed. That's tremendous. Why can't, and you've got all these thermostat controllers now for charcoal grills, which turn the oxygen supply down and up, and you can actually set up a Weber kettle or a Weber Smoky Mountain or Kamado, and it will go to a temperature and just hold that temperature. Why can't we do that with a gas grill?
Well, I too have discussed this with several manufacturers, and I walk away thinking if it could be done, it would be done. Lynx, which makes outdoor kitchen equipment, and they're expensive. They rolled out their smart grill years ago. It was supposed to have voice commands, and it was, everybody was like, oh, gee whiz, that's great. And it was like 10 grand or something like that. And it just didn't work. And I don't know why. Yeah, but the thermostatic, the digital technology is making inroads even into gas grills, although I haven't seen anybody come up with a viable solution, come up with a product that they're saying that they are selling, that they are currently selling. Some are saying, oh, we're working on this, so we're going to introduce this, and nothing. But here again, Weber is doing a lot with digital technology and incorporating it into all of their grills as an option. And
they just purchased a technology company.
Yeah, Gin Technologies on the West Coast, and that was a platform that they used for their smoke fire pellet smoker. But they're expanding on it. They have their grill hub, which is kind of like their iGrill that some people might be accustomed to. But the new ones that we'll be getting very soon, they're smart grills. Do everything but allow you to control it, allegedly. They use that technology they got developed with June Technologies, and it's pretty much like their grill hub. You can, it's basically monitors everything. You can monitor your meat temperature with meat probes that are integrated into the system. You can monitor your cooking temperature, and if it's not right, you go out there and adjust it with the dials. So that's getting you closer. So I think it's going to happen, and whoever brings it over the finish line, I think will have a hit. I am surprised it hasn't happened by now.
Yeah, I mean, I
There
can
you go.
set the temperature to 250 on my pellet smoker right now, and it'll ride right in that range all night. So
You cooking something?
no, I just run it so the neighbors get jealous. They smell it.
Your neighbors. I was going to say, what the hell are you cooking? And I can't. How fast can I get there? Max, one thing that we didn't dwell upon, and we have Raymond again with. He's asked good question. What should we look for in a pellet smoker? Now, before you answer that, let me also point out, in addition to Max's database, which has 500-600 grills and smokers tested,
600, yeah.
There are articles that we've written, and in fact, one of them is called "What to Look For in a Pellet Smoker," and it has, you know, some of the strengths and weaknesses, and things to think about, as well as a video Max did on what to look for when buying a smoker. And
yeah, and also if you go back into our catalog of these happy hours, we've done great ones now on stick burners. We've done pellets. We did charcoal. So those are educational as well.
Yeah, if you can sit through a couple hours of us yammering, but we did. We got the guys on from Green Mountain, and we talked about pellet smokers, what to look for, and so on. That was a really good session, and it's in the Pitmaster Club for you to watch. So, Max, what do we look for in a pellet smoker?
Well, now we have to go back to what I always ask. Once we've identified the fuel, it's pellets. Okay, so that most people know what kind of fuel they want, but not always. But that's an important factor, obviously. But then the next two important factors are price and size. Now, with a pellet smoker, you don't need to think about two zones. They can't do two zones. They're an outdoor oven. Your oven in your kitchen cannot be set up for two zones. The oven itself, I'm talking about. They're convection ovens. Open them up. There's a convection oven there, you know. So what now you're actually looking for something that is even. And most pellet smokers have even heat because they have fan systems that blow the smoke and the heat around. It's hard for them not to have even heat. Although some, you know, it varies in how even it can be. But price is a huge factor. Size is another big factor. Then from there, you know, what features do you want? And these days, I want to hasten to add, if you're looking for low-cost pellet smokers, they actually exist now. And you know, it wasn't that long ago where there was only a few brands. Nobody made really inexpensive stuff. I saw a Pit Boss, a small Pit Boss pellet smoker at a hardware store for $250. And I don't mean small like a portable one, but just smallish, you know. It was on a cart. And then you could go up to spend 5, 6, 7,000, whatever, as much as you want to spend. You could.
What's the one that's en route to my house? That's a new.
Broil King. They've had them out for a couple of years now. I like Broil King quite a bit. We're going to see what it can do. It does have some neat features. It has a built-in rotisserie system that comes with it, which is kind of neat.
No, I've never seen one of those.
Yeah, well, I've seen some that. Well, Green Mountain is offering them now for the newer models.
Why that's necessary, though? I mean, the thing about rotisseries is you have the chicken is exposed to the flame, then it's not. So you essentially have it moving back and forth through a two-zone system. You have infrared radiation, then you have convection, and it goes hot, then cool. So it's going on what they call a sinusoidal wave, hot, cool, hot, cool. Inside of an oven, which a pellet smoker is, it's pretty much the same temperature throughout.
Yeah, but then is what else to look for? Do you like Wi-Fi? Do you like gizmos? Do you want to have a cool app on your cell phone and monitor and control, like we were bellyaching about the gas grills? That not all of them can control, but it's becoming more and more commonplace where you can be downtown in your office and checking what you're smoking. Oh boy, that's coming along. Well, maybe I better drop the cooking temperature into a holding temperature around 180 because I'm not going to be home for a few more hours.
I'll tell you something that's really important to me. I have a Mac 2-star and I love it to death. It has a lot of great features. I wrote the review on it. Huge cooking area space. I can get 2 or 3 shelves in there, but it has one nasty feature. Occasionally, pellets absorb moisture and swell up, and there's a tube that feeds the pellets from the hopper to the burn pot. So you've got a hopper, a tube, and a burn pot where the flame is. And if they swell up, if they get wet or they just absorb humidity and clog up that tube, it is just an awful pain for me to clean it out. I mean, I pretty much have to disassemble the entire electronics, the working stuff, and it's done this to me twice. Now, I've had it for 10 years, but I mean, you know, it's still, it's a knuckle buster. It's an all-day sucker, and I just hate it. You know, some of them, now the new Weber pellet smoker that Max reviewed has a really clever design, and it doesn't look like it could ever clog up. And if it did, it looks like it would be really easy to get it unclogged.
Yeah, the hopper, they've taken some ideas from Memphis grills, which are luxury stainless steel pellet smokers. They have a hopper that's mounted to the back, not to the side. And then the fire pot is in the center at the bottom of the smoke box. And so that auger is very short. You know, it's not going from one side to the center. It's very short and it angles upward, and the pellets fall down into a pellet chute and go into the burn pot. So when you pellet smokers these days, it's a common feature where you turn them off and they go into a cool down or shutdown mode, and several things happen. One of the things that happens with the Weber's design is at a certain point in the sequence, it reverses the auger and pulls once it feels like that there's no possibility of any burning pellets at the end of the auger, it will reverse the auger and pull the pellets away. Not all the way back into the hopper, but most of the way back in. And since it's very short to begin with, as Meathead said, if it somehow did jam up, you wouldn't have to, you know, it's only about that long, you know. And you can get at most of it pretty easily too. It's not buried under control systems or what have you. But
something else that you mentioned is a lot of them now have, there's this escalating war between them to build the coolest, neatest, fastest app so you can sit in the living room and adjust the temperature on your smoker and read the temperature of the meat and stuff. And you know, I got to tell you, I've got one that does that. I don't find the need for it. And I mean, you know, I don't have to change the temperature on my smoker.
Well, especially a pellet smoker, yeah.
Well, any smoker. I mean, generally, when I'm smoking meat, I pick one temperature and just let it go and stick with it.
True. You know,
I just, you know,
but I mean, like with a live fire, well, I guess pellets are, but let's say if you have a charcoal smoker and you're checking and going, oh boy, that fire's dying down a little. I got to change it. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
no, that's not going to happen with a pellet smoker.
No, on a pellet smoker, I set temperature and leave it. I mean, I don't feel like, well, I'm going to cook it at 200 for the first hour, then raise it to 225 for the next hour, drop it down to 190 for the next. I mean, you know, I
don't do it either. I mean, I have, if it's coming along faster than I thought, or my guests are late or something like that, then I will drop it to 180 and let it sit, you know.
Well, but you know, what I mean, I will put a probe in the meat and watch that. I walk out to the smoker and just look at it. You know, everything working okay. There's still pellets in the hopper. Okay, you know, lift the lid. Yes, still smoke flowing.
Yeah,
I do
people
like,
like being able to have the option of controlling it.
I will look at my smartphone occasionally. I don't live and die by it, but you know, I found it convenient in some once in a while.
I don't use it hardly ever. And
Well, one of the things that the real sophisticated apps do is they'll actually give you guided recipes. Now, when they first started coming out, I was like, oh, gee whiz, that's cool. But you and Clint and I would never use that. And Weber's got it on their smoke fire. And at least they come clean and say, it's just meant for beginners until they learn what they're doing. Then they're going to want to, you know.
well, not only that, but they're all so afraid of getting lawsuits that they all the temperature settings that they tell you to cook at are the USDA numbers, which
Yeah, that's true. That's another issue.
which are all high. I mean,
they want to
you
make
want
sure
a recipe, come to amazingribs.com.
exactly. And
You don't need your smartphone to tell you a recipe. All right, listen, we're over we're an hour and a half now, and I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. Some nice comments, thank you, folks, in the chat section, and I think we can probably wrap it up and call it a night. Max, was there anything that you felt like you wanted to add that you hadn't said yet?
Oh, I don't think so. Well, we didn't talk about pizza ovens. They're very popular, gaining popularity. That's another night.
Well, we did
well, that's right. We have a happy hour on.
Yeah,
pizza.
What about pizza?
And we can talk about the pizza oven options too at another time. Hey, that's a good point. Hey guys, go into the Pitmaster Club to the section on the happy hours and post a couple of suggestions if there's a topic you would like us to cover, or just drop an email to me, Meathead at amazingribs.com, Clint at amazingribs.com. Tell us what you're dying to hear us talk about. You know, this time it's 3amazingribs.com people here, but we've had these with some really stellar VIP guests and really some great input from them. But there's nobody who knows this topic better than Max, so why go out and get somebody who's lesser?
And Max has some, I bet you got some good goodies on your back porch now that'll be up and reviewed soon, right?
Oh, yes. And more are on the way.
Clint, did you have anything more to say? Anything you wanted to add before we call it a night?
No, I think we're good. If anyone makes it to Memphis in May for Barbecue Fest next weekend, I will be around. So keep an eye out or send me a note. But yeah, we'd love your suggestions for future happy hour topics. And like we said earlier, if you see something you like and Max has written it up with a nice review, grab it while you can, because things are in short supply this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it looks like it's going to continue that way for a little while.
All right.
Then I like to wrap up when I remember to remind everybody that cooking for others is an act of love, and what's more important than what's on the plates is who's in the chairs. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for staying awake. Thank you for your good questions, and we'll see you next month and in the Pitmaster Club. Good night, everybody.
Be well, all.
Good night. Huh? Well, that was